I eat, sleep, and drink wrestling. I'm an old school wrestler. I have great passion for the sport of wrestling. Mantar's Memoirs, we have a motto here, and the motto is, you only die once, but you live every day. Ooh.
All right, welcome to another Thursday for This Week in Pro Wrestling. We're glad everybody's joining us today. One thing we're not glad about is former WWE star Mike Mantor Halac, passed at 55. The Monty Nefaro family is saddened to learn that Mike Halac, better known as the WWE fans as Mantor, has passed away. Halac's combination of size, charisma immediately captivated fans worldwide as he took to the ring in a giant bullhead, highlight his half-man, half-minotaur persona. Obviously, I just stole that off of one of the many articles written about Mike. It was bittersweet because it was really great to see so many people paying homage to Mike, who we consider a personal friend. If anyone didn't know it, Mike had a podcast on our channel, and we've got some guests coming on. They're going to speak. Actually, one of them introduced me to Mike and Paul, PN News, because they were going to start a podcast together. Mm-hmm. And slowly, Mike and myself became very, very good friends. Mike shared a lot of things with me, as I did him. And last Thursday, 2 Thursdays ago, Mike came and visited the studio, went to Maine to vacation with his family, and felt it so important to drive 8 hours to come to the studio to see his friends Monty and Nefaro. He did a live Mantor's Memoirs with you,
yep,
which he enjoyed.
Yep.
And on Thursday, last Thursday, he did his final unfortunately, his final Mantar's memoir. On Monday, I got home from work. I uploaded the video from Thursday. I fell asleep. About 10:30, Mike wrote me. It was on Monday and said, Mike, I broke my back. I fell. I broke my back. I'm in such pain. I woke up about 11 o'clock, I guess, what it was. And I said, Mike, what happened? He's like, I'm in such pain. And I didn't want to call him. I said, look, once I get up, I'll check on you, and then I'll call you right after work.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And I went to work, tried to reach, wrote him about 5 o'clock on Tuesday p.m. after work. He didn't answer. I didn't think much of it.
Right.
Went about my day. In fact, I was walking my dog, and I called you, and we were just talking, and I had told you Mike had hurt himself.
Yep.
And you were like, yeah, it's not good. He has, he's had a bad back or whatever.
Yep.
Fell asleep, and then, unfortunately, I received, there was a couple of phone calls from Universal Talent Agency, Tim, and, a couple of calls. So I'm like, what is this about, Figured Tim was pissed at me about something, whatever. Right?
Okay.
I call him, and he's like, Mike Halac died. Needless to say, I didn't sleep the rest of the night.
Nah.
I reached out to you.
Yeah, you
early
did.
In the morning.
It was after midnight. I says,
I reached out to ESO,
on?
who had a personal relationship with him.
I
reached out to Benny Scala from Dan and Benny in the Ring, because he
Sure.
had a personal relationship with him.
Sure.
In the short time we knew Mike, a lot of us were touched by him.
Yeah. Some people are capable of doing that, and he was.
So
I've never been more happy that we're wearing shades right now.
Right.
Because this is just enough already. I don't know, man. It's just enough. Just enough.
When we
so young. I mean, 55. He was, like you said, he was just here. His daughter was awesome. His father was awesome. He was awesome. He was a positive guy for all his pain, But I was worried about his health because he had such a big frame. And I thought to myself, how can a man carry such a big frame for so long? So I was concerned about. We had talked earlier that day when I wasn't exactly rosy about, his health. I was like, man, he worries me because of his size and his health problems and his back. And when you told me he broke his back, I says, oh, boy. It didn't look good. It didn't sound good. But I honestly wasn't expecting to hear that he was gone at all. I was just very concerned about his health, but I didn't think that this would happen. I can't even begin to imagine what his poor daughter is going through or his father. And I'm really happy to be wearing sunglasses right now because I'm a mess. Just being honest.
I went to Florida to go see Hulk Hogan a couple of months ago, whatever. And Mike's like, you coming down there? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
And I went down there. Now, look, I'm like 265, right?
Right.
I'm not a small human being, to say the least.
No.
And we've had many wrestlers here. I'm like, I could have been a wrestler compared to my size against them.
Sure.
So I'm sitting at a bar at the hotel, and actually Benny came and met with us, right? And here comes Halac. And if I had never seen a human being that big.
When he came to the studio, his back was the size of a couch.
His legs.
He's huge.
His
legs are immense.
His calves.
He's immense. He was immense. He was like a wall. Really was. Especially from the back, his shoulders and everything. I was like, oh my God, this guy's monstrous. He's a big boy.
The amazing thing about him was he did have a good outlook on. We sat and talked, I don't know how many hours. We talked all the time. We spoke all the time. And, there was a point where, he said to me, you're one of my closest friends, because we did share a lot of stuff. And
in that short time, yeah.
And I,
seriously,
like part of it, like, when you talk to these wrestlers about things, it's funny. It's not even funny, but how life can change you. And he literally, he tells a story about Scott Hall and Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
But guys, I am telling you from speaking to him, he was crushed.
Yeah.
What
Those
the click did to
those
him.
guys ruined his potential.
Yeah,
they did.
He thought there was this huge opportunity.
He's a big guy,
and
there was an
and
opportunity.
they crushed him on it. You know,
did. That's true.
Lou says Halac, and I'm going to read a lot of comments, guys. So, Lou says Halac's last few podcasts, many tears and reflection out of Mike himself. He gave the podcast all and was real. That, you know what?
Yeah, he did. He gave it his all.
He would say to me every day, "I love doing this podcast."
Yeah.
And, you know, when he was up at Maine, right, he wanted to drive. I'm like, Mike, it's like 8 hours, dude. Because Mike was coming in for an event anyway. And I'm like, it's 8 hours. I'll see you in August.
Right.
He's like, nah, I just want to see you guys. And I was like,
that's
you
him.
know, I'm like, come on, dude.
At least from what we knew of him now, that's him.
And he took a ferry from Connecticut in the car.
He was excited. It was his first ever ferry ride. He's like, I've lived 55 years, and now I can say I've rode the ferry. Yeah, he was pretty happy about that.
He was pretty happy about that.
Tell you what else he was very proud of. He was very proud of his career, regardless of what happened. He was very proud of his career. And, you know, I mean, he would share with us, you know, much more with you, but I remember him, like, you know, reflecting on, like, did I do enough? The New York Post wrote an article on his passing. You did enough, Mike.
I want to shoot up. Now, everybody knows from watching our show, I'm not a big fan of the GoFundMe page, or GoFundMes in general.
Correct.
In this particular case,
yeah.
You know, Mike is leaving behind his 83-year-old father, who he picked up from Nebraska to come live with him in Florida. Mm-hmm. You know, and his 13-year-old daughter.
Yep.
His father, who we met,
yeah,
just recently lost his wife, Mike's mother.
Mm-hmm.
So, guys, if you have any extra cash, if someone needs this, it would be the Halac family, for sure. You know, it's an 83-year-old man now. And I have no idea if Mike had life insurance. We never discussed that.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And, you know, why would I guess?
Right.
You know, this was a shock to me.
83-year-old dad and a 13-year-old girl.
Yeah.
That's... Jesus.
Mike really loved his fans.
Yeah, he did. No,
and I'm just telling you from me speaking to him, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I wouldn't say it if you know, he would just tell me how much he loved the fact that he still had fans.
Yeah.
And he just, I mean, I wish he would have been around for the New York event, because I think he could have soaked it in. I'm proud of the fact that we were introduced to Mike Halac. I'm a better human being for knowing him, and
I'll second that.
For Mike, people that were watching his podcast, it wasn't a click this. He was just getting it off the ground.
Yeah.
And he knew it was going to take time.
Yeah.
And, he didn't have as many wrestling stories, I'm assuming, as many people. Right? Because, again, look, he had a pretty decent career, right? He was in Europe and...
Last night I was watching one of perhaps he wrestled him more than once, but a particular match with him and Razor Ramon, and I was actually kind of blown away by how much offense he got in that match. I mean, crap, he almost pinned him. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, I don't remember him being this effective, but he was. So that was a little bit of an eye-opener. I'm like, wait a minute. And he had Jim Cornette in his corner, no less. Mm. So he's beating the holy hell out of Razor Ramon in the match, and he's got Jim Cornette. I'm like, yeah. Yep.
Carry out there means so much that you are sharing all this. Mike was one of my second cousins. Mike's mom was one of my dad's cousins. This has been really hard for me as you.
Our condolences.
My wife said to me, Mike, keep it short and sweet, right? Don't overdo it.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And
that's fine. I want to at least say, if I can, kudos to you.
1 second, because this is important.
Yeah.
Abe, can you put the link on the chat for the GoFundMe? Thank you, Isman.
Kudos to you for not only always being willing to make friendships with wrestlers, because you know how Captain Social is.
I get it, right?
You know, but helping him, give him the platform, which gave him a lot of joy. And I've seen a lot of people saying a lot of nice things about Mantor, but I'm really proud of the time you put in with him and the friendship you built with him and the optimism that he felt by doing this show that he was doing on our channel. So nothing but props and praise for you to do this for him. So seriously, I know that's, you know, make you feel uncomfortable.
But something funny, right?
What's
so we
that?
shoot at a television studio here in Long Island, right?
Right.
We've got a producer, we've got a 5-camera shoot, right? This isn't like a regular podcast.
No.
But unfortunately for Mike, he had Mike Monty as his producer.
Oh, God, here we go.
We
need a laugh anyway, so here you go, Mike, this laugh's for you.
Every phone call, he goes, how did you like the show? I said, man, Mike, I thought you were great.
But
He's
the producer's
and he
gotta
goes,
go.
He goes, the production sucks.
Oh, that's great. I thought you were doing it on your laptop, weren't you?
Well, eventually,
what are you supposed to do?
Eventually, we were going to do it out of here, right? I was going to work with Abe, and right?
All right.
And we were going to get that whole thing going, you know, and get him an
Slow
intro
and steady
song and
wins
get
the
all
race.
that good stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Guys, the GoFundMe link's up there. Thanks, Abe.
Thank you, Abe. Yeah.
Benny, I don't know. Can you attach that photo from you in Florida? I'll try to do it if I could send it to Abe at some point. But you know, Benny, who's from Dan and Benny in the Ring, he's going to write an article on Mike.
Awesome.
He was actually supposed to have Mike on the show.
Oh, God. Okay.
And I'm sure that's a huge disappointment.
Benny's magic pen will be at work, I'm sure.
This man says, the match with Razor, I asked him in Hannibal TV about the slap, and he laughed and said, good question. He went on to clarify it that it was off the cuff what Razor did.
Yeah.
Dude,
actually, right. He walloped Razor pretty good in that match.
We've got some guests that may even know Mike more than we do.
Right.
But first, Paul New, PN News.
PN News
sent us a video.
Awesome.
Now, just so everybody understands, many people think that Paul and Mike were brothers. They were not.
Right.
They were very close.
They may as well have been.
Yeah, but
you know, but yes.
the thing is like that was his brother, and then he brought him into business.
Sure.
You know,
gotcha.
Unless they were lying to me or working me the whole time, which could be.
This is wrestling.
And I know, but they weren't brothers, but they were very, very, very close.
Bacon and eggs. Right.
So after PN News, then we're going to bring on our guest, and I'm going to let them share their thoughts.
Hello, PN News here. I'm still kind of in shock about what's going on in the last couple of days, and I really don't feel fit to talk about the guy, and I kind of want the family to get through this, but I just want to give a real tribute out to my best friend who I have in this business, and I know he's in a better place now, and when the time's come and when the time's right, with the family's approval, you know, I'll leave out a little bit more information, but right now I just want to say rest in peace to my best buddy, and I know that he's in a better place, and I think that when it's all said and done, and I'll meet him again one day. So whether it's in hell or high water, I'm sure we'll both be there for each other. So God bless you, Mike Halac, and God rest your soul, brother. I'll be talking about you soon, and you'll be always in my thoughts.
All right, welcome back. We've got guests and friends and co-workers of Mike. Guys, can you introduce yourself to the family here? Guys?
Hi, I'm Faustus McGreaves. I've been really close friends with Mike for the last decade. And actually, I just finished making a documentary about him called The Mighty Mantar. We were actually going to be out in LA in a few weeks from now at some premiere screening it.
Can you tell us about this documentary, if you don't mind?
Yeah. Well, okay. So I'm a filmmaker. I don't usually make documentaries, but I became friends with Mike, and to be honest, I knew wrestling from the '80s. I was in my teen years in the '90s, and I didn't follow it as much. So I actually didn't know who Mantar was. And we were both acting on a film, and he was just, as you already were talking about, just this massive guy. And I remember we were doing a film that actually was about wrestling, and I walked in, and we had a scene together where I was fighting the heel, and he had to separate us. And at the time, I was about 275, and he pushes me to separate me, and I flew across that locker room, and I thought my collarbone was broken. And I was like, "Oh man, you've got to go lighter." And he wasn't even trying. He wasn't trying to hurt me.
Wow.
Such a strong guy. After we were done filming that, I figured out one way or the other. I figured out who he was. And I think because I wasn't a fanboy or anything, and he respected, he was just getting into films, so he respected my craft, and we could just talk on the level, and we just became great friends. And I remember thinking, here I am, not caring about wrestling, listening to his stories, and just being so fascinated by them. And I thought to myself, well, if a non-wrestling fan can sit here and listen to him for hours and be interested, then I think that's a good subject.
I personally
So I talked to Mike, bought him a steak dinner, and I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I said I personally know how excited he was about this documentary. He said it took almost 5 years to make, right?
Yeah, well, we filmed it in 2019, and then COVID hit. And so we had to pause everything. And then, really, I had started putting some of it together, but there was a big pause. And he called me up and he said, listen, you MF, you got to finish this documentary. And literally that was in April. And so I dedicated the next month to just purely working on the documentary and finished it at the end of May.
Did Mike get to see the finished product?
He did.
He did.
He did, and he loved it.
He did. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So we have another guest on. So you want to introduce yourself to the Monty and the Family family? If you could hear us.
Yeah, I'm Derek Young. I'm an indie filmmaker myself, and I met Mike a few years ago thanks to my buddy Tim Bill, and I was putting together a convention. And Tim said, "You need to get Mantar." I remembered the Mantar deal from when I was a teenager, so I said, "Sure, man, that'd be great." So I met Mike, and we were talking amongst everything, and I had a film I wanted to do. So when he came down for the convention, I was like, "Hey, let's get you your first acting break." So I got him to be one of the stars for Family Property 2, More Blood, and I got him hooked up with Kadril Shona, and who he came real close to. I sat back and became friends with Mike throughout all of that, and it was hilarious just because I was a director and my name was Derek. The very thing he did was just start calling me Big D, and I could still hear him, "Hey, Big D, what's going on, man? Where we at?" So, it's crazy because Mike had one of the biggest hearts of anybody I've ever been able to meet. I know I went to New York just because he was going to be on the show. My whole family went, but I left my family to go with Mike to the wrestling show that he wanted to go to. And I don't think there's going to be a fond memory of anybody else better than that one. We spent the entire trip on the bus to there, laughing, joking. I know there's going to be a lot of people that are going to wish they had those positive vibes Mike gave out every time he got on the phone, no matter how bad things were for him. He always tried to tell you how good things could be for you. And, I don't think there's a way to replace having a friend like him,
Wow, that's some incredible statements there. Incredible. Also, Tim Beal from Universal Talent Agency, he's on. Tim, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Real bad.
He's struggling. Can you guys share your fondest memories of Mike Halac?
I can't hear a fucking thing. Can you guys hear me?
I got a really good one. So we during the filming, it was great. I told Mike, I said, "Hey man, look, you're going to be this mean bully father who just pretty much beats the crap out of everybody and anybody, including your own son." And he was like, "Man, that sounds like it's going to be fun." And then after he met everybody, everybody looked at me and said, "He's too nice a guy to be this mean guy, isn't he?" I was like, "Well, let's wait till we say action."
Yeah.
So soon as we called action, we're doing this fight scene. As soon as we call action, his face changed. Every bit of his demeanor changed. He came in the door, bumped dude with his shoulder. And the actual security guard at the place, he wasn't told that we were filming, and he was just coming in on shift. And he literally thought that they were fighting.
Uh-oh.
Because Mike was able to sell it. That's the greatest thing that I could say was seeing him go into the acting world was just like seeing him wrestle. He had it. He knew what he was doing. He knew what he needed to do. You told him, he hit it. But it was funny because we're doing this scene, and here are the security guards thinking somebody's really fighting, getting ready to call the cops and shit. But had to, stop that real fast. Then we go into the next day where he's with the person playing his son, and we got dude chained up, and he's supposed to be having him there, just tormenting him. And he's sitting and throwing the punches at him, and he accidentally catches dude in the head. And as soon as the camera cuts off, Mike's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, man. Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, he's definitely not the mean guy he is when it says action."
Faustus, can you tell us about the fans out there about the documentary and what they could expect? And when do you think the general public will be able to see this?
Yeah, well, the documentary, the tagline is, "This is not a story about wrestling. It's a story about a man who wrestles." And yes, you got background on Mike and his time in the WWF, as it was called in the 90s. Then you get stories from when he was over in Europe. But it's really about the title is The Mighty Mantar, and it's ironic because it's also about how his body was so broken. And the toll that it took on him and his family. And also it deals with CTE. And I'll tell you this, and it goes into that in the documentary. We list all the symptoms of CTE. And you can't diagnose it. until after you've passed, which he now has, and I know he's getting an autopsy, so we'll see. But he had every single symptom of CTE. So I guarantee this, even if he hadn't passed, that by the end of that film there wouldn't be a dry eye in the theater. Because he opens up and he puts away his bravado, and you really see his pain, his hurt, his fears. And Mike was adopted, and you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier about his wanting people to think that he did everything he could and that he was worth people's time. And he said that the biggest thing he wanted to do was to prove to his adopted parents that they made a good choice in adopting him. I still can't even believe this. You said that you got to know him in the last year or so, and how you felt really close to him, and I got to know him in the last 10 years. And I did say I'm glad I got to know you now instead of when you were younger, because he was a jerk. I mean, he admitted it. And he was mean to everyone, and he was the toughest kid. He thought he was the toughest guy in Omaha where he lived. And he had a lot of ego and all that, but he was a changed man. And I got to know him. Well, although he was broken physically, I got to know him where I think spiritually, personally, he was at his best.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Could I ask you this? Say you knew Mike was going to pass. What would you say to him?
I'll tell you this. He talks about it in the documentary too, but he doesn't have regrets. It's interesting. It's ironic because he says he doesn't have regrets, but he said there are a couple of things that I changed, brother. But he really lived his life, and his new motto of you die once, but you live every day, and that was Mike. He was gregarious, he was funny, he was strong, he was scary. He was a loving father. He was a great friend. And I'm going to miss him. It's hard to talk about it.
Understood.
Understood.
If I can lighten it a little bit, you said you took him to a steak dinner. What I think you meant to say steaks dinner, right? There's no way he ate just one. This must have taken like 4 credit cards.
Yeah, he had the porterhouse. He had the biggest steak he could find.
You mean the house, not the porter? That guy was huge. He's so big.
When I was in Florida with him, right, we went out to dinner.
Uh-oh.
He ate. Now, again, I'm not a small guy, right?
No.
He ate his meal, my meal,
Benny's?
a giant chocolate shake.
What about Benny? Was Benny
2
safe?
pieces of key lime pie.
That's awesome.
Benny quickly ate his food to make sure he got it. Because if it wasn't nailed down,
boy.
Mike was going to eat it.
Oh boy.
Tim Beal, can you hear me yet, Timmy?
Yes, sir. Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
we
sir.
can.
There
Welcome, Tim.
Thank you so much for having me, man. First of all, I just want to share a couple moments of my life experiences with my brother, Mr. Mentor, Mike Halac. And Mr. Derek Young and I actually put Mike in his very first film as an actor called Family Property 2. I had reached out to Mike on Facebook in 2014. And I said, I wonder whatever became of the gigantic wrestler I grew up watching on USA Network every Monday night on Raw, the Mentor, Mike Halac. So I reached out to him, and he goes, do you remember me? How could I forget you? Some of his feuds when I was a child with Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels and Bam Bam Bigelow. And I was just like, yeah, I remember you, man. Who could forget you? He was taken aback by anybody remembering him at first. And then as we conversated, I said, hey, I want to become your manager, man. I want to start booking you for work. I want to get you in films. I want to get you in appearances. He's like, I've never had anybody want to represent me before. I said, well, brother, I do, and let's do it. So I started working with him, and we formed a kindredship, a bond. We were like brothers. I think Mike had a very infectious personality, man. Anybody that was around Mike for any amount of time, he became their brother. He was a guy who had a big heart. His heart was just about as big as his body was. And I'm going to tell you, man, he always put first. He was the type of guy that would give his shirt off his back to help you out in time of need. And he would just be there for you. And I know Derek can expound on that, man, but Derek and I had a wonderful time working with him on Family Property. And then Derek went on in a couple films later they did together. I actually had a falling out with Mike in 2015, and we didn't talk for 7 years. This is what I didn't tell anybody, but I'm going to share it now. And I had God talk to me and say, is there anybody in your past that you want to make amends with? And I said, yeah, I want to make amends with Mike Halac. So because of Derek Young again, I reached back out to Mike 7 years after no communication, last November 2022. We patched it up. We made amends. And I said, brother, life is short, man. I want to work with you again. He said, why now? I said, I never forgot you, man. Never forgot you. And you know what? I'm so happy and so proud that I did that, man. Thank God I reached back out to him and made amends and was able to patch things up, because when he left this world, I can honestly say, brother, that me and Mike Halac were the best of friends. I'm going to love him. I'm going to miss him. But in his memory, we're going to get Family Property 2 out there, and we're going to get it released. And we're going to have a screening in Los Angeles at Limley Theater of The Mighty Mantar. And
I think we lost his service. Derek, same question to you, sir.
Yeah.
If you had the opportunity to say something to Mike, what would you say?
Well, I hadn't, with life, we hadn't been able to talk a lot lately. I'm going to regret that. Because every time I get on the phone with Mike, it'd be a 3 or 4 hour conversation trying to catch up. Now I can't get that 3 to 4 hours. I hate the fact that I've been battling to get this movie finished for so long. Going through a depression, I kind of put stuff off. I really hate that he's not going to be able to be there for when we finally show the world what he was able to do. We're going to miss him. And, it's like he said, you only die once, you got to live every day. I've been so busy trying to survive that I've not been living. And
well, that's something we all.
He's going to be the reason that I change the way I do things.
There you go.
So, there you go. There you go. That's how you can memorialize someone.
I'm just going to miss him.
All right, guys. Want to thank you for joining us. You're such a big part of Mike's life. Festus, any last things to say? Where can we see the documentary? When do you expect us to get this opportunity?
Well, I know there's going to be a screening. I think Tim was trying to talk about it there, but there's going to be a screening in LA. Right now, we're in negotiations with a couple of streaming services, trying to decide where it's going to officially land. But it's coming. It's coming soon, and there's going to be a free screening in Omaha, Nebraska.
Nice.
Okay. And we're accepting donations. No one's going to get any money for it except for Mike's family to help with
Excellent.
their needs for the funeral and beyond that. If we can raise, at least offset some of those costs.
You guys are all, thank you very much, all of you, for coming on. I know this hasn't been easy for any of you to share in such a hard time right now, but all three of you are obviously good men, and you put in good work, and you'll be able to show the world, all of you, from the work you did in the past, the fruits of the labor of Mantor. So you guys are going to honor him in his passing just by what you guys have done for him in the past and what you're about to premiere, all three of you. And Derek, I totally get it. Just go for it now. Use this as an inspiration and go for it. Let the world see what Mike was about.
All right,
hey,
guys.
do we have enough time for me to share one more story?
Sure do.
All right, because I want to share something funny to end this out on.
But do me one favor, Derek. Get the camera on your face. There you go, buddy.
There he is.
So here's the thing, right? Y'all were talking about Mike and how he ate. He came to stay with me when we were doing the filming and stuff. And he said, well, I need to make sure I'm going to be able to eat. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'll make sure to have enough food, everything else. He said, I don't think you understand how much you're going to need. I said, well, we'll figure it out when you get here. And we sat down and I fixed the first meal and we got done and he looked at me and he said, all right, so that was a snack. What else do you got? At that moment, I started laughing and said, I can't believe I found somebody that could out-eat me. I guess we need to get up and go to the grocery store. So we went, and about $300 later, I had enough food for the week for him. And I looked at him, and I said, hey, man, I wish I'd have had you with me when I was at the beach. Because they have this whole deal where it's you go down and there's this place at the beach and if you can eat everything there, you get it for free and they put your name up on the wall. And I knew he could do it. But he looked at me and he said, well, if you take me, I'll eat mine and then I'll eat yours and then we'll get both our names up on the wall. And I said, well, let us do that, brother. Let's go. We're going to have at it. So, that whole thing about y'all being able to sit down and see that, it's something. Mike himself, every little thing he did, there was some type of humor to it. And it was just the way that he said it and did it. And, it's just anybody that never got the opportunity to see him wrestle, you need to take the time to, because even though he got buried, he put every ounce of his heart into it. And what he did in the ring when he had the opportunity was great. So I just wanted to make sure to tell everybody, if you've never heard of Mantar, go look and see what he had to do to be able to live his dream.
I love it, man. Thank you, guys. Thank you all.
Guys. Thank you.
Tim, Derek. Thank
Could
you.
I say one more thing? If you want to find out about the documentary, because I don't have obviously solid dates right now, the Instagram is the Mighty Mantar Doc. And we'll have all the updates and where it's going to premiere and the screens it's going to be on and what network it lands on and all of that. So
can't wait to see
check
it.
that out.
Can't wait to see it.
Awesome. I just want to say one more thing too, please, if I can say something myself, and that is, my phone was overheating. I'm in California, so this weather out here gets so hot sometimes my phone overheats and shuts off. But I wanted to say that most people do things in life for profit or gain. I was going to do a screening of The Mighty Mantar out here at Lemley Theater in Hollywood, Los Angeles, for profit. Well, when Mike passed away, I said, you know what? What's more important than money? Your legacy. You can't take money with you when you die. So I immediately thought about Mike's daughter when I heard Mike passed away. I know she's very young. So I said, you know what? I'm going to join the cause and what Andrew's doing. Andrew's doing a screening in Omaha, Nebraska of the film, and all proceeds will go to benefit Mike's family. I'm not going to profit off this. I've decided all my proceeds from the screening out here in Los Angeles are going to go to benefit Mike Halac and Mike's family. And I just want to say I love Mike. I'm going to miss him. He was my brother, and I'm glad that we were able to patch things up at the end. And I just want to leave people with this right here. No matter what somebody does to you in life, the most unhealthy thing you can ever do is carry around a grudge. You have to find it within yourself to forgive and forget. Whatever Mike and I, whatever our differences were in the past, we let it ride. It was water under the bridge. And at the very end of Mike's life, he and I were brothers. I'm going to miss him. God bless him. God bless his family. And God rest his soul.
And God bless you guys. Thanks again for sharing your memories of Mike Halac, the Mighty Mantar.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all.
All right, guys, some interesting stories of people that knew much more than we did about Mike Halac. There's not much more to say, Jimmy.
No. Just rest in peace, brother. I hope you got one rolled up for me in heaven. I'm waiting.
I posted a picture, a final picture before we cut out, of Benny from Benny in the Ring in Florida.
We go.
I took that picture.
It looks like you had a nice time.
It was a good time.
You Rick and Rackin'.
It was a good time.
Nice picture, Benny. Nice pic.
I'll just end it with this, Jim. Mike, I knew you for a short time. But in that short time, you brought me on a roller coaster. You made me realize how strong the human spirit can be. And you changed my life forever. Thank you, Mike Halac, for being part of my life.
Good night, everybody.
This life is tearing me apart. This life is tearing me apart. Remember when I was with you? Love was all we really knew. I saw the beauty in this world all around me. And I have tried to understand. You know I've done the best I can. I miss the love that once was there to guide me.